So, welcome to our first podcast of Origin Stories. And as you can see behind me is the beautiful Homecoming Center where we hosted our first event. And unfortunately, Kimlynn, you weren't able to make it. Life happened, and we said, let's rather record the podcast and to meet and to hear your origin story in a podcast format. So, thanks for agreeing to join me.
Thank you so much for asking. Thank you for wanting me back after all the chaos that I caused with not being able to be there. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate being here so much.
Awesome. So this is very informal. Essentially, just a little bit of background about origin stories, just so for the audience. But every Friday I walk up Lion's Head and I was having these most amazing conversations with founders, but it was just one-on-one and I was just frustrated. So I thought, let me create a platform, which is, I guess, the sort of the TED for African entrepreneurs, where more people can hear the origin stories of amazing African founders so that we can inspire the next generation and to share your story to the world. So that was the origin story of Origin Story. A little bit of a background as to kind of how I got to know about you was that I'm a advisory board member of Women in Tech. And the most amazing lady who runs that, Melissa, suggested that you would be a perfect person for Origin Story. So thank you, Melissa, and welcome, Kimlynn.
Thank you so much. And honestly, Melissa has been instrumental. She's been incredible with getting Tipped Out there, the story of Tipped Out there, me out there as well. So yeah, just thank you again.
So let's get into it. So what was the origin story? Tell me about Kimlynn Temple, growing up, who inspired you, and then we can go into more about the problem you're solving with Tipped. But I'm always curious about the origin story, about the founder.
And I think it's so important. I was chatting to someone the other day about it. I think as any entrepreneur, the motivating factor or the drive behind why you're doing what you're doing, I think it's multifaceted, but at the same time, it is something that is very strong. And I think there's many reasons as to why we do what we do. And it can stem from childhood, it can stem from certain incidences in life, it could stem from just a multitude of different things. And that's exactly it, I think. So I think it's so important that it's all encompassing. From childhood, from very young, knew I wanted to be successful. Didn't quite know what that was, but I knew I wanted to be successful. I was competed in dancing for most of my life, and from a very young age. So competitive, but competitive with myself. Loved the arts, loved creativity, choreography, going into interior designs, and being creative in thought was a very big part of my life, and from very young as well. And then finishing school, I grew up in Benoni, so that's where my roots are on the East Rand, but moved and have lived in the UK and KwaZulu-Natal for 16 years, had both my kids there, and now in the Western Cape. So I think have got to understand the different provinces within South Africa, but also had that international experience as well, which was tough and it taught me a lot. And as I say, formed one of the biggest reasons as to why I started Tipped. But really left Benoni High not knowing what on earth I wanted to do, wanted to go into a million different things. My interests were vast and varied. I've always had a love and a passion for children, nurturing children, educating, and just a compassion for others, I think. And didn't know what to do, and it actually led me into tech because I got to a point leaving school. My dad actually said to me, just study IT for a year while you find your feet and figure out what you want to do. And got into IT, started with, I'm going to give my age away, but started with a course in A+ DOS and HTML. And as I say, that bug bit, and then started just learnt Java and C++. So just developed from there and actually stayed in that industry. But as I say, I think there's so many sort of influences and things that happen in your life that impact where you land up. And I'm sure it's still going to mold that and shape that as I go along. But I think biggest influences in life, without a doubt, my mother. She's the most phenomenal woman that I know and mentor. Honestly, a single mom, but she's one of those. She encompasses everything that a woman should be and a lady should be. But she's brave and she's bold. But she instilled this belief in us from very little that nothing is cast in stone and that there's always a way. And I think when you instill that foundation of positivity in somebody, you grow up with knowing that no matter what happens, you'll be okay. And that's honestly all contributed and attributed to her. So in terms of influence, That's definitely her. And again, it comes down to being that creative mind, being a keen observer throughout my life. And I think observed life, and life has influenced me a lot and taught me a lot.
I love that. Firstly, the things that I'm taking is just the competitiveness in dance and the discipline that it takes with that. And there's a great TED talk around dancing and from an education point of view, how it's always at the bottom of the sort of the spectrum, but actually it's such an amazing creative outlet for humans. We've done it for centuries. And then secondly, just the inspiration from your mom, I think that's amazing. And also from Benoni, I think there's been some amazing talent that's come from Benoni. I think Charlize and yourself.
Well, yeah, I'll take it. I'll take
What's
Charlie's.
what's in the water? There's
It's
definitely
actually
something going on in the East Rand there.
there is. Do you know what? And you know what I think it is? We are actually chatting about this the other day. I think it's just this, but I think it doesn't matter where you come from in the world. It's this, you grow up with this, like, make a plan, make things happen. Come hell or high water, you're going to make a plan. And then I think when you grow up with that as well, you push the boundaries as well. You're not risk adverse.
What is it about that sort of upbringing that shaped you?
I think it builds some sort of tenacity as well, but I think it's just the fact that growing up, I don't know, maybe perhaps that you're not risk adverse, that you take those risks, but that could very well be just from, as I say, with my mom instilling that in us as well. But I do think it's that you make a plan. Onions are very good at making a plan and just making things happen. Come hell or high water,
I love it.
you do, and I think maybe that's what it is.
While you were preparing for your origin stories talk, what was the message that you wanted to leave the audience with? Because again, it's a video, it stays out in the world, it's evergreen, so to speak. But it is quite a meditative process, kind of thinking about what your presentation is and what is the message you wanted to leave. So I'm just curious as to what that was.
I went between two main messages, although they would all feed off the story of Tipped, right? But I think the main message that I went with in preparation was just leading with compassion. And it sounds so simple, but I think that's exactly what it is. It's being empathetic. It's creating a business using tech for good. That's the biggest message that I wanted to get out of this. And it's a message that I try and instill in my children all the time. I want to be that example that you can create a successful business by doing good for others. Like, that's the biggest message that I want. You can be successful in that by being kind, by being empathetic, and by seeing life through other people's eyes and understand, being compassionate to that.
I love it. It's just exactly what the world needs more of. And the one thing about us South Africans and Africans is, we've got a lot of challenges which turn out to be opportunities for problem solvers like yourself. So I would love for you to tell the audience about Tipped and exactly what you are solving for. And then also just a vision for the business, because the one thing about these podcasts, which I want it to be, is almost like a bit of a diary entry, so that your future self can come back and watch this and be inspired. So what exactly is Tipped for the audience? And then also, what vision do you have for, no pressure, for the future?
So Tipped, in essence, is a digital tipping and payment solution aimed at any service personnel receiving gratuity. It is living example of it. You reverse out of your parking lot at a shopping center, and for me, it was not being able to look that car guard in the eye and say, I'm so sorry, I don't have anything, or next time, or it's your waiter or waitress, your fuel attendant, golf caddy, whoever it may be. It's making tipping digital. And that's what Tipped really is. I started it out, as I say, with a background in tech, and having lived in the UK. It was a very short stint. I was there for a year. I actually wanted to get into IT in the UK just soon after graduating from Van Zyl and Pritchard, 21 years old, and went over to the UK and thought I would get into the IT industry. And it was 9/11. So I'm really giving away my age. But it was 9/11, and the IT world went into a massive recession, and I landed up bartending. Not a drinker myself, never bartended in my life, didn't know how to pour a drink, but that's what I landed up doing. I remember the first drink I was asked, my first customer actually asked me for a snake bite, and I had no idea what that was. He had around the counter to teach me how to pour it. But anyway, what it did, and why the story is so relevant, is what it did is I realized very, very quickly at a very young age what it meant when somebody just that gesture of appreciation, giving that little bit extra, whether it was like £1, £2 tip for me was massive at that stage. Having to financially
Mm.
support myself in a foreign country was not easy at all. And so the nights where I did get a tip, it made a difference to my day, and it made a big difference. I mean, it meant I could eat something substantial for supper. That's where I was. And I think that cemented something very, very early on that I carried for many years. Anyway, fast forward, worked for corporate for 10 years, coming back, living in KwaZulu-Natal and being in the IT sort of space and whatever, had my own children, and then got to that point, as I say, where I just could not look another car guard in the eye and say, I'm so sorry, because I knew what it meant to me when I was in that stage and phase of life, and going through that hardship. It meant a lot. And yet here I couldn't just say, I see you, I appreciate you, I support you, here's something that could possibly help. And so taking my sort of IT
Mm.
background, thought, well, what if I developed something? What if I put something out there, just a digital way in which you could send a tip? And in this cashless society, as cash is now dwindling, maybe I can solve that and fix it. And there had been other solutions out there, but nothing that I'd seen that had really gained traction. And so started with 18 car guards at a shopping center across the road from me, and thought, well, let me just try this. Partnered with a digital wallet, so gave them each a tip digital wallet and a corresponding QR code, and said, well, let's go for it and let's see, thinking that that was really the start of Tipped, but it wasn't. It was through this pilot and through the journey of walking with these 18 car guards, spending time with them day in and day out, understanding their challenges, their life challenges. That for me is when the light bulbs sort of started going off. We saw an increase within the first 7 days, an increase of 27% almost, 27% increase in revenue for the car guards, because now people were tipping digitally as opposed to finding that £2, £5, whatever you may find in your car. It then increased to almost 40%, which alone was huge. It was massive. I kind of took a step back and I thought, hang on a second, yeah, there's something. And one of the stories I tell so often, but for me, it became that core reason, that core value as to why I've pushed through and I've held it so close to heart throughout these 6 years of developing Tipped. But one of the first, he was part of the 18 car guards, and he was the first Zimbabwean foreign national that I signed up. His name was David, and I signed him up, and 3 days later he was horrifically attacked. And as I say, I speak of this story often, but it impacted me so
Mhm.
much. Horrifically attacked. I mean, he was stabbed, he was beaten, everything was taken from him, from his wallet, his cell phone, his bank cards, all the cash he had made that day, everything he had was gone. And because I got to know him really well, I went to go see him the next day, and wanted to go check on him. And I could see this excitement in his eyes, and I couldn't quite understand it. And he said to me, Kim, for the first time since I've been in South Africa, and for the last 3 days since you gave me my tipped wallet, I've got money sitting there. I've got 300 Rand sitting in my tipped wallet that was untouched. It was safe. For the first time ever, it was safe,
Mm.
and I have power over it. And it was massive for me. It was an eye opener. It was a lesson. It was a learning. But it was, as I say, a learning almost in mentorship. Tipped has been my mentor, honestly, hugely so.
Mm.
It has shaped so much for me and done so much for me. But in that moment, the learnings from that was incredible. And I think taking all of those bits and pieces and thinking, well, if I can increase revenue by almost 40% for car guards alone, there's 1.5 million car guards in this country, right? If I could do that for 1.5 million people, like and on top of that, how would that impact their lives, the families that they support in the South African economy, and then being able to give this cashless environment in which to save and transact on, and even support foreign nationals and the unbanked within this and whatever. And so taking all those lessons, for me, that was the genesis of Tip. That's why I started it, and that's what it's been built on. And so really, I mean, building and creating a mechanism where you can send a digital tip across is one thing, but I think looking at it and saying, well, how can I use a simple but smart solution like this as a conduit for change? And so how can I build an entire ecosystem for the tippee? So how can I bring in things like retirement annuities and pension funds, but fractionalize it, right? How can I
Mm.
bring in cross-border remittance, education bursaries? And you know what? We could do this, and we can do this, and we are doing this for anyone from any background and any walk of life. And there's so much power in that. That's my passion.
I love the origin story of you being on the other end of the tip in the UK, and really I can see where the empathy and the care comes from, which I know with all entrepreneurs, the best ones are those who like physically feel the emotion and pain of the consumer, and therefore
Yeah.
that's the fuel that drives you to solve the problem even more so.
Yeah.
That really resonated with me. Also, for you, what magic one time? What would you see this next 5 years look like for Tipped and for yourself? What would that goal be? Because we're putting this out into the internet and out into the serendipity and the world. But
Yeah.
what would that vision be?
It's going to sound a little bit silly maybe, but I the success stories that we've had out of Tipped already have been instrumental in its growth, but also encouraging to me, inspiring me. It's allowed to me to persist, I think, and to drive this forward. And like when I hear those stories, one of our fuel attendants at Cecil actually, so through our solution, we are able to report and we are able to have insight into, what's happening in the tip wallets and whatever. And through this, we're using it for KPI measurements. But through being able to recognize this and recognize trends in tipping on the forecourt, what we're doing at the moment is we're able to see like the top 3 tippies on a forecourt, performing tippies, as well as the bottom 3 tippies, right? Those fuel attendants that are getting absolutely zero in tips. And one of them in particular, we sort of saw that this was a common trend that was happening. We flagged it straight away. We actually assigned a mentor. We trained him up, skilled him, and he is now our top earning tippy across all forecourts of Cecil. Now, I still get goosies when I speak about that story. But, a story like that, for example, one of the fuel attendants was telling me the other day he's got 4,000 rands worth of tips in his tipped account. Those car guards that are
Wow.
actually saving their money in their tipped account to build their own businesses. When I hear stories like that, and as I say, it might sound silly, but when I see the smile behind the story and I see the hope and I see that the power I think that people are kind of feel because they're responsible for their tips, right? But it's bringing in an additional source of revenue and a good one at that. When I see that, if I could fast forward 5 years from now, I just see that but multiplied to millions and millions and millions of people. And I want millions more stories that are like that.
Brilliant. I think what resonated with me, and it's a personal story that I have with my favorite barista at my local coffee shop. And it was just a change in behavior. So you get those terminals that they pass over to you to enter your amount.
Yep.
I said to Mr. V, I said, I'm going to give you a bit of advice, but you've got to promise that whatever I tell you, you follow. And he goes, yeah, I agree with you. Okay. I say, every single time you give the point of sale thing, don't cancel the button. Allow the person to give you a tip. But all that money you save, I want you to put into a special bank account that you do not touch, that you save forever. And it's been literally about 8 years. And it's just that small little behavior change that like can make a big difference. So for me, what is some of that advice? I'd be quite curious. Is it smiling? Just a little bit of advice we can share here for service people, but that really resonates with me because just that one little advice can make or platform in your case can really make a big difference. And I've personally experienced that.
And I think, and I love that you did that, honestly, because that's the heart of Tipped as well. If we can, as I say, even if it's fractionalize it, but if we can help someone become financially just sustainable, but also have power over their own finances, have control over it as well, but be able to help them plan for a future and equip them for a future as well. I think it's so important. And it's these little lessons, right? And just teachings and education around that, which I love. So I take my hat off to you for doing that because I think that's incredible. In terms of service, I think and I think anybody in the service sector, it's just going that little bit of that extra mile, right? And what I really love about Tipped, but I think tipping in general, because I think it's such a debatable thing. It really is. And I've got to learn that over the 6 years. But it's something that you do. It's a gesture that you do out of your own free will, goodwill, and out of your own heart. But it's because of a reflection of service, right? And it just is. It's taking pride in what you do. It's just as much as you want to be seen as that service individual. You also see the customer, you see them, you listen to them, you're there, you interact, freely, happy, all those things, right? But as I say, what I love about this, and I think because we're collecting data on it, and because we're able to have a bit more insight into all of this, is the circular economy, right? And I call it the circular economy of good. But it really is. You are the face of the company. Say, for example, a fuel attendant, the barista, for example, the hotel staff member. You are the face of that company. And so by putting out that little bit of extra care, extra positivity, happiness, whatever, even if you're having a really bad day, we all do, but that you're going to get tipped well, right? So you're going to do that. You're going to go the extra mile. You're going to get tipped well. On top of it, the company, the employer, they benefit from it too. And so, as I say, and then it feeds back, and the beautiful thing is, even through the data that we're receiving and whatever, our top tippees are getting rewarded. Their tips are getting doubled by the companies that they work for, and all of this. So, as I say, all of it, I think, it's just those ripples of good, really, that come back. And so it's just, yeah, I think it's just all of it encompassed in one, really, as I say. But that creates that kind of feel of good.
Just for our international listeners, you see, I'm putting that out into the future. In South Africa, we've got a large amount of unemployment. And when you go pump gas, you've got a petrol attendant who does it for you. And there's this transaction that you have with them, and they clean your windows, they pump up your tires. And then at the end of that transaction, you tip, just to give context and color for people who don't understand what exactly is happening. But I love the fact that it encompasses everything service related. Also car guards, that's a South African thing, where you park your car on the street and a gentleman will come, or lady, and look after your car and show you into the parking space, and then essentially you tip them when you come back. So just to give color and context.
Thanks. Yeah, but that's exactly it. And as I say, it just creates an alternative revenue. And with car guards, I mean, explaining the concept of car guards, the only revenue that they make, the only income that they make, is from the tips that you get. And yet it is a very big, economy, and it's informal, but it's very real and prevalent in this country.
Yes, and just some numbers. I saw in my research that Sasol, the big South African petrochemical company, is one of your customers, and maybe some data as to kind of what has been tipped, or what you can share as well.
Yeah, in numbers, just in actual tippies, really, as I say, car guards alone, 1.5 million. Fuel attendants across this country, I mean, BP's got 17,000 fuel attendants. Sorry, Sasol has got 17,000 fuel attendants. BP, we've got a pilot with as well that will soon be starting, and they're slightly bigger. I think they've got about 600 forecourts across South Africa, if I'm not mistaken. So large numbers there. In terms of number of sort of tipping numbers and that, I think what I find fascinating, more so than what's come in and the amount of tips that have come through the system per industry, what I find is the tipping amounts, like the average tipping amount. I started with the average tip amount for a car guard was 10 Rand. We're now seeing it being between 10 and 20 Rand. For a fuel attendant, 30 to 50 Rand. We've even seen some that are 70 Rand. Hotel industry, 100 to 150 as an average tip. That to me is fascinating. That data is fascinating. And I'm seeing it escalate, which I love. Sure, it escalates during different times of the year. Christmas is sort of more the time of giving, and we see quite a peak in that. Bigger tips, more frequent, and then we see a drop off and fall off January, February, which is expected and understandable. But it's interesting that data, the data.
Yeah, that is interesting. That's essentially gold.
Exactly.
Just to put in the data is the new fuel, to align with the petrol station. But also, I think what's quite amazing. So if you are listening to this and you are tipping $1 to your car guard, or 10 to 20 Rand, that's the going rate, and double that for petrol attendants, and then triple that for hotels. So if you're not tipping that, then you're a cheapskate. So hopefully this podcast can increase the average tipping of the people that listen to it.
No, absolutely, and always, if it is deserved and if it is just, absolutely.
I'm always someone who's very practical and wants to help founders. I rented out the theater behind me as proof and sold all the tickets for you guys. But what would you need to help you grow so that this in itself can also help you and your journey and the people that you serve and help?
I think just to support building a community around Tipped and what it is. And I think we've been we've been super blessed in that. And I think because so much of Tipped is based off heart and it fills a real need. I think for people to either connect with me on LinkedIn, follow me on LinkedIn would be amazing, because you can follow the journey of Tipped and where we are. For 2026, my biggest priority and focus for Tipped is to scale and market. You know, we've had to kind of pull back, and we haven't been able to scale to the extent that we should have by now and wanted to by now for various different reasons. But I think that's the biggest thing, is just scaling. So if there is somebody that you want to
Cool.
sign up, let me know. You know, we can help sign them up if it's anything like that. We can reach
And
them.
which industries or brands or companies, just so that we can call them out?
Gosh, in the fuel sector, as I say, I've been very fortunate to be rolling out nationwide with Cecil. We've got this BP pilot now as well. But I think any of the others, you know, Astron would be amazing, Shell would be amazing, any of them would be amazing to get on board. And there's so many different, it's not just tipping, as I say, it's the everything that we're doing in it encompassing, we're making it an operational benefit. And that's so much of what Tipped is as well. You know, it's not just about digital tipping or anything. It's actually revolutionizing tipping cultures and norms. And that's what we're doing too. But I think in the fuel sector, that would be incredible, you know, in terms of hotels and hospitality. Honestly, it extends everywhere. It's so far and diverse. Car guards, domestic staff, small businesses even are using our platform for payments, restaurants. We have some really big plans and a roadmap ahead of us with regards to that. So I'm excited to
Brilliant.
launch that. And even
Good.
Tip Junior is something that we're launching pretty soon too. So that's tipping your kids for chores and pocket money
I love it.
like that. So I'm excited about that too. So yeah, as many people as we can sign up and get on our platform, the better. But in saying that, what I would really love is those that are using it, those that have tried to use it, attempted to use it, want to use it, feedback. Like, I would love feedback on the experience of it. Just makes our UX and UI even better. So even that would be amazing. Constructive criticism.
Brilliant. Yeah. It's that's it. It's listening and improving on it, listening to your customers.
Yeah.
But as an organization, with you as the founder, with leading with your heart, I'm very sure that the feedback will go to heart and get implemented.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to cover? We will share the links to yourself and to Tipped in the show notes. Is there anything, any message or anything you want to share to the millions of people watching this?
I think more so to you, Will, just to say thank you. Thank you for supporting entrepreneurs, supporting me, believing in it, but for putting entrepreneurs out there. You know, I think the challenge of being an entrepreneur is spoken about quite a lot, but I don't think the rawness and how hard it can be. And so when you have somebody like yourself backing, believing, supporting, putting entrepreneurs on a stage out there, you know, putting businesses out there to be heard, it's a gift that doesn't hold in. It's invaluable, completely invaluable. And so just thank you for doing what you're doing. Honestly.
No, it's a pleasure. I've been where you are and I know this journey. So it is just creating a community that supports. The other thing which I've observed is that generally African entrepreneurs, we've got these values of humility. It's not a positive trait to brag or to talk about yourself in a way that's not becoming. And this goes across all cultures and all
Yeah.
countries. But you need supporters and a stage to allow people to share their story. And the most important thing that we see from African entrepreneurs and Africans in general is that we're very relational in the way that we conduct business. And the most important thing is to understand where you came from, who are you? And that's what Origin Stories is effectively about. It's really allowing you to share your why story so more people can trust you and connect with you on a much deeper level. And then at the same time, and we don't necessarily have to copy what we've been shared with in a more of a Western American European way. It's very transactional. It's like a pitch deck. You know, what's your ask? What's your traction? You go through like 9 or 10 slides and you haven't told them who you are and, you know, you're a mother, what you grew up at. And those are the important stories that need to be told. You know, I take my hat off to mothers and women who are entrepreneurs as well, because you are juggling so many balls. And that's why I'm a proud sort of advisory board member of Women in Tech, because we need more role models to show the future. And I'm a girl dad as well, to show my daughter what's possible as well.
Yeah, I love that. I honestly do. And it is, and whether you're male, female, mom, dad, it is. You're juggling a lot, solo parenting in this journey as well. So a lot it
Mm,
kind of rests on you and your shoulders, and it gets overwhelming. So to have the support and the backing in it is so important. But as you say, I think to have those core whys as to why you're doing it, and those are so deeply, deeply rooted that they drive us forward. So yeah, it is. It's all part of it, I guess. Yeah.
And I take my hat off to you because without founders and entrepreneurs, we do not have an economy.
Yeah.
Adrian Gore was a founder once upon a time, and as well, and as South Africans and Africans, we do generate very good business people because there's not a lot of capital. There are not a lot of rich uncles who can fund your business. You've got to build a proper business from day one where there's revenue and not
Yeah.
sort of vanity metrics.
No, absolutely. And I think it's also, it goes back to that, asking about Benoni and that I think it's South Africans, I think we're survivors. You make a plan, you survive, you find a way always. And I think that's incredible. But at the same time, I think what's magical about South Africans in Africa as well is there's a lot of opportunity.
Mm,
And even going into tipped and I think it applies in many different ways as well. I went in not knowing a single thing about fintech, banking, unbanked. I knew nothing about it, nothing whatsoever. But I think when you go into something without those blinkers, and I think we're South Africans a lot of the time, there's almost like no limit. So you go in a blank canvas and you just go, well, I'm just going to go for it. I'm just going to try.
mm.
And that's sometimes the best way to go in. There's nobody kind of stopping you. You can just go and try and use those opportunities that are sitting right in front of you.
Brilliant. So, and any last message you want to give to future Kimlynn and any aspiring entrepreneurs before we wrap up?
I think that, as I say, this journey is tough. It is really, really tough. Towards the end of last year, you reach those points where you actually don't know if you're going to make it, and you can't quite see the future of your business. And as I say, you grow up with this instilled positivity always, but you falter and you wobble on that sometimes. I think the biggest lesson that I got out of going through that last year and now seeing the light that I am coming into the new year and that and the roadmap sort of ahead is that it's going to be okay and you're going to do it. Just keep going. Just keep going and keep that fire. And as long as that fire is there,
Mm,
nothing can actually stop you. And to future entrepreneurs, I would give the same advice as well. It's not going to be easy. You are going to hit rock bottom. But it's when you reach that rock bottom that you prove to yourself that you can do it and that you can push through. So, yeah, I think that would be the biggest lesson.
I love it. We're going to end there. Thank you so much, Kimlynn, for your time. And we look forward to catching up and supporting you along your journey. I mentioned this is just the beginning. You are part of the Origin Story alumni, and we're looking forward to building this supportive ecosystem of entrepreneurs. My goal really, I put it on the stage, there was 1 million entrepreneurs by 2050. So we want to touch and inspire as many entrepreneurs that we can. So thank you for what you do and look forward to catching up in person.
Me too. Me too. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Kimlynn.
Bye.